I'm back, and so are the Boston Red Sox, maybe after they finally won a series against an AL East team this weekend.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. I'm your host, NESN's Lauren Willand. I got married, so now I have a new last name alongside me, the person who held it down for the last 2 weeks, Jake Ignaszewski, Massachusetts Pirates team insider, Worcester Red Sox production assistant, doing all things every single day and including helping me host this Locked On Red Sox podcast. It was a good weekend for the Red Sox. Very easily could have come away with a sweep of the New York Yankees, but I think the Red Sox fans here will take a series win against an AL East team. It's technically their second series win. I don't think the one game they beat the Orioles last week should count as a series. I'm 100% with Alex Spear on that one, but this was a much needed series win. They won Friday 3-2, lost Saturday 3-2, and then won Sunday 3-0 on Sunday Night Baseball in 2 hours and 15 minutes. But overall, just a very positive weekend for Boston.
It's a very good sign when a team like the Red Sox, who, the tone of this team since the All-Star break ended really has not been great whatsoever. And when you're able to win a series against the best team in baseball and also your arch rival, the New York Yankees, it was very nice to see. And I think this is the first time in a few months where we've seen the swagger of this Red Sox team. We're going to talk about what happened, throughout the weekend and also on Friday, but, you just felt a little bit of different energy when watching the games, and you weren't really on the edge of your seat too much on if the Red Sox were going to blow it at all. And I really felt very confident every single time I was watching these games. And this was the first time in a little bit where, I was fist pumping. Like I was just super excited, and there felt like a little bit more of adrenaline than there has been in a few weeks or so.
And we saw some of that swagger on Sunday, and I want to start there because we had a little bit of everything here. We had really strong pitching from Michael Wacha, his first start since June 28th. Rafael Devers with the 2-run homer in the 6th. And you saw him just kind of pimp the home run, the bat flip. You saw that kind of energy come back to him. And he's always somebody who's just a big goof in the best way possible. Like, he loves this game. He has his own little quirks about him. And Xander Bogaerts, who was on the on-deck circle, knew it right away the second he hit it. But that had to have felt good. Rafael Devers is a Yankees killer. We all know that. The Yankees know that. But just to see him give the Red Sox some insurance in a moment they really needed to, and give Wacha that cushion there was really good to see.
Devers and Pham were pretty much all the offense on Sunday. We saw Tommy Pham go 3 for 4 with 2 runs. And as you mentioned, Michael Wacha shoved. I mean, it seems so easy for him, so natural for him right in his first start back. And it was a little bit weird because I know you went to the Portland game where he had his final rehab assignment. And I looked at that stat line thinking in my mind, he threw a no-hitter in 4 2/3 in Worcester, and he didn't honestly look that great from what the numbers looked like when he pitched in Portland. But it was really nice to see him go up against one of the best offenses in baseball and really make it look like it was a minor league team. And especially going against guys like Aaron Judge, Andrew Benintendi, and Josh Donaldson. He just seems so easy for him just to pinpoint his control right on the corners. And those hitters didn't seem like they knew what was coming whatsoever.
No, they didn't. And I went to Michael Wacha's game in Portland, and on the second pitch of the game, he gets hit in the foot with a comebacker. And Derek and I just looked at each other like, come on. And this was either the morning after or the morning of we found out about Chris Sale breaking his wrist.
Yeah, it was the same day.
So
I remember seeing Derek's tweet. I'm like, thank God it didn't turn into something worse.
And he looked to be in, I'm sure it stung obviously, but he looked to be in pain. I was like, oh no, this is just exactly what's supposed to happen, right? Like, the Red Sox cannot catch a break, but he did bounce back. He did get into the 5th inning. And while his stat line as a whole looked fine, his control was a bit all over the place. We did see that a little bit last night, but 9 strikeouts, getting into the 7th, especially when Cutter Crawford and Nate Eovaldi got into the 6th 2 games prior. It was just so crucial for Wacha to go at least 6, which could be asking a lot in his first major league start since June, but he looked really, really good.
And thank God, Brasier right after him looked good too, because I saw, him come in, and all I'm thinking is, come on, don't ruin this. It's been a good night. Like Waka did really well throughout the first 7, but Brasier looked good too, and he's looked good over the last few games or so. Luckily the Red Sox bullpen has been doing their job and getting the necessary outs, and even Garrett Whitlock coming in that 9th inning, looking like the closer you and I want to see, and really did a good job of being able to seal the win for the Red Sox. But I think that this is just such a momentum builder for this team, and they're starting to pile up these wins a little bit, even though they lost on Saturday, and we're going to talk about that. Just continuing to get wins here and there, but you really need to start to get on a run very soon if you want to be able to do stuff in October and not be playing golf.
No, exactly. And they have a series coming up with the Pirates. The momentum is in their favor. The Yankees are starting to kind of slip a little bit here. And we've talked about this throughout the season, that there is room for them to kind of have a bit of a fallback, so to say, and can kind of afford to lose these games. But now I don't want to say that they're collapsing by any means, because I don't think that's the case. I think they're just going through a little slump like every team goes through, that the Red Sox have just seemed to go through all season. But it was crucial for the Red Sox to win this series. It was they easily could have swept this series, but I have to give stick tap, hat, tip of the cap, whatever base sport we're in here, to the bullpen, because they looked really, really good. And especially Matt Barnes. I don't think I thought I was going to say that this season, but he looked the most confident, the strongest he's looked all season over the weekend. And I'm not going to sit here and be like, he's back, but if he can be this kind of steady pitcher into the end of the season, I'm going to be okay with that, because he looked, like I said, he looked confident. He looked in control of his pitches, and he got big outs.
It's very needed for him, and this is just such a great confidence booster for Matt Barnes, a guy who we haven't seen look like himself since last July when he was named an AL All-Star. And the last episode that we posted on this podcast, me and Chris Henrik, we're talking about they need to find a way to trade him, and we haven't seen a guy have this sort of collapse or not pitching up to par or struggling since Daniel Bard. And it's pretty incredible to be able to see how he's sort of changing his fortune now. He looked like Nick Pivetta last year in the playoffs, coming off the mound, fist pump, bumping his chest. And, that's just sort of the type of stuff that will really help a pitcher and motivate him to have a much better run than we've seen from him. And, if Cora is able to put him in the right situations, and maybe he's not feeling that high pressure like we've seen him collapse in before. Hopefully he can start to build up that confidence and be the Matt Barnes that we saw in the first half of last season.
Yeah, even if he can be a solid setup guy, I think Red Sox fans will take any sort of solid production from Matt Barnes at this point. But it was just really, really good to see. You could see it on his face too, that he was just amped up to be able to properly contribute to this team, probably for the first time this year. I mean, he was on the IL. His ERA was skyrocketed. He was throwing batting practice every time he was on the mound. And now, like I said, I'm not going to say he's back, but I was very, very encouraged by from what I saw over the weekend. And someone else that I've been very encouraged by is Tommy Pham. We're going to talk about him and the rest of the series in the second segment of the Locked On Red Sox podcast after I tell you about LinkedIn, because if you can believe it, it is almost fall and you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find people that you want to talk to faster and for free. You can create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week, nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free today. Terms and conditions apply. So Tommy Pham, who was acquired by the Red Sox at the trade deadline for a player to be named later, this looks like a very, very good trade right now for the Red Sox. He's just been really, really good for this team. He came up clutch in Friday's game with the walk-off single in the 10th inning, got a Gatorade bath, the water was flying. And his quote to NESN's Jemai Webster after the game was perfect. He was like, Jemai asked him what the mindset was. He's like, end it. We don't get paid for overtime, so we got to end it. And he did just that. And he said you couldn't ask for anything else. And just overall, just been fantastic for this Red Sox team. His first 10 games here, he has at least one hit in 8 of those contests. That was going into Friday's game. I'm sure those stats have since changed the last 2. But overall, I know I was not happy with the trade deadline. And like I said, it had nothing to do with the major league players coming in. But Tommy Pham looks like he is the perfect fit. And even better, this almost happened a few months ago.
And it really should have. If you had Tommy Pham in right field instead of Jackie Bradley Jr., maybe not record-wise, I don't think we'd be talking about anything different, because I think a lot of the losses have come from the bullpen collapses or the lack of offense. But, you could say if Tommy Pham was able to do what he's done since joining the Red Sox throughout the season, maybe you could add a few more wins to the Red Sox total, because, in the last 7 games, batting .333 with 3 home runs and 9 RBIs, and has just really looked confident at the plate. As we mentioned, Sunday's game was 3 for 4. And he's just somebody who, it seems like anytime the Red Sox need to extend the inning or drive a runner in, or just need somebody to come up clutch, Tommy Pham is that guy. And he really just seems to, kind of like Kyle Schwarber last year, just really fit into this team and this clubhouse and the culture. And you're really starting to hear him talk about how much he loves playing in Boston with the atmosphere. But I feel like, no diss to Jeff or anything like that. That's what happens when you go from the losing Cincinnati Reds to the Boston Red Sox. And, what you've been able to see, from the tone of both of these teams, eerily similar, unfortunately, but luckily Pham is able to really be able to have the crowd behind him, show him that appreciation, through their claps, through the atmosphere that Fenway has. And luckily, this is something that I didn't know and found out yesterday, and it makes this trade look even better, that a mutual option for $6 million is on the table. And I think that, honestly, it's a no-brainer at this point for the Red Sox to pick that up.
Yeah, it seems, right now on August 15th, that seems like that is the thing to do, especially that this team did need outfield help at the trade deadline. This team probably still will need outfield help come next year, especially even though Jarren Duran showed some good defense over the weekend. You don't really know what his future in Boston is, whether that they continue to stick with him, they try to trade him for prospects or another major league ready player, who knows? But you have Tommy Pham, who's fit into this lineup. And it kind of reminds me of the Kyle Schwarber trade last year, because even though the Red Sox needed outfield help, he just kind of fit, like you said, seamlessly into this lineup. He's already embraced being in Boston. We know that he wanted to come here a few months ago, and the trade never happened or anything like that. But for somebody who's had so much negative attention on him with this whole fantasy football thing with Mike Trout, and then the whole slap thing getting suspended, maybe all this guy needed was just a change of scenery. Like you said, no offense to Jeff, our channel manager and host of Locked On Reds, but the Reds just, they were a mess, and they're still kind of messy. And not that the Red Sox are the number 1 team in the AL East or the number 1 team in the AL wild card, but when you go to a team that has a lot of history, you have that storied rivalry with the Yankees, and you have a history of winning, you have the expectation of winning, it probably motivates them a little bit more to just be a better player, be the player that they know they can be. And I've loved every single thing I've seen from Tommy Pham this year. Right now, it looks like a great trade. So that player to be named later, who knows who that player will be? I don't even know when we'll find out. I mean, we could find out in the off season, maybe find out tomorrow. With our luck, we'll find out second we stop recording Locked On Red Sox. But as good as Tommy Pham was, Nate Eovaldi, even though he went 6 innings on Friday, he didn't look his sharpest. He had decreased velocity on his fastball, which always makes me nervous when there's decreased velocity there, and with his history of Tommy John and elbow injuries. But he did get through 6 innings. He had the gut through them. because you didn't really have a choice. You needed to give this bullpen a rest, but if you get through 6 innings and only give up 2 earned runs on 8 hits, I'm going to take that 9 times out of 10.
That works for me. It's just unfortunate that, he hasn't looked himself whatsoever, it seems like in the last like 2 months or so. And it's unfortunate when you saw the update that he was going to be returning, especially with all the injuries and how bad the pitching was for the Red Sox. As fans in our mind, it's awesome. We're actually getting a reliable pitcher back, but it's crazy to look at this rotation and see Nathan Eovaldi and Nick Pivetta, and both of those guys have been one of the most inconsistent pitchers like on the team. And it's thank God that Wacha's back, and thank God that guys like Josh Winkowski and Cutter Crawford have stepped up when the team is needed it most. But especially if the Red Sox want to continue piling up these wins and having this resurgence to be able to get into the playoffs, Nathan Eovaldi needs to pitch not as close as we saw to like the ace form as we saw last year, but he's got to do a little bit better than we saw on Friday.
He does. And whether that's less hits, obviously less earned runs would be ideal. But I'm still a little worried about that decreased velocity on the fastball. But, when you have the bullpen, thankfully, Matt Barnes, Ryan Brasier, Garrett Whitlock, who really stepped up in Friday's win, helped keep that lead close and helped keep the Yankees at bay. You're like, okay, maybe it's not the end of the world, but you're not always going to get that. You rely on Nate Eovaldi, you rely on the Nick Pivettas to do their job, and hopefully the bullpen can go in and close it out. But at the end of the day, I'll take it. Like, like you said, it works for you, it works for me. And you mentioned Cutter Crawford, who did everything he possibly could have to get the win on Saturday. The Red Sox lost 3-2 after winning 3-2 on Friday in very exciting fashion with the Tommy Pham walk-off. But Cutter Crawford, despite the loss, he still looked really, really strong. And I'm really encouraged because he wasn't all that great in Worcester. He was kind of struggling down there, but he's just been a new kind of pitcher. He's been reliable. He went 6 innings, and he really helped, again, that depleted bullpen for the second consecutive night. Alex Cora had heaps of praise, calling him really, really good mix of pitches. And even though the Yankees hit balls hard, the Red Sox played good defense behind Crawford. And one thing that really stuck out to me is that Alex Cora said he understands and he watches the game and he makes the adjustments. He watched Eovaldi yesterday, kind of like the way he attacked the opposition. He was tremendous. So you can clearly tell that Crawford is doing everything he can to better himself and to be the pitcher that the Red Sox need him to be. And somebody who can make adjustments on the fly is going to be crucial down the stretch for the last month and a half, 2 months of the season.
And that's very impressive for a guy who he's only in his. I mean, you could still, I guess, consider him a rookie because he only had one start last season, and he's just done a really good job of being able to do exactly what the Red Sox need. Go out there, whether it's you allow 6 hits, maybe 1 or 2 earned runs, and you strike out 5 or 6. That's just all that the Red Sox needed, and he's making a case for himself not only for the rest of this season but for next season to be a 5th starter. And I think it's going to be really tough if him and Winkowski continue down the stretch that they're going of having reliable outings. You got to either put one of them in the rotation next season or have one of them as a long reliever. But it's really nice for the Red Sox to be able to have those options. And in the past, we haven't seen them have those options. And especially with the injuries, how much they've really piled up. And, we saw what Cutter Crawford did at the start of the season when the Red Sox did put all their confidence in him, giving him a roster spot in April. And now it's starting to pay off. And he's somebody who I could see be a very big help for this team, especially down the stretch. And it just such a great signing for the Red Sox. I got to look back. I don't even know how they got him.
Yeah, I'll have to look back on that too, but I feel like it's been a while since we said this. This is a good problem to have. And we've seen the Red Sox struggle so much this season. And no, we're not sitting here, we're not putting all our eggs in one basket saying like the Red Sox are going to definitely make the postseason, because we know that's not a guarantee. They still have a lot of games ahead of them. They have a tough schedule ahead of them, but the trade acquisitions have been really, really good. Tommy Pham, even Reese McGuire, he hit his 10th double of the season on Saturday against the Yankees. He's now, after Saturday's game, batting .500 with 9 base hits in 18 at-bats since joining the Red Sox. And this guy has a lot of eyes on him because of his past as well. And then being the guy who comes in for Christian Vasquez, essentially, he's going to take over some of the catching duties with Christian Vasquez. And I think he's done a lot to prove that he can be a starting catcher for the Red Sox for the rest of the season, as much as I love Kevin Plawecki.
And it's really unfortunate to see how ineffective Plucky has been throughout this season, especially with. I remember him coming up so clutch in multiple situations for the Red Sox throughout last season, and he really looked like a reliable spot starter for any other team, because he's not going to potentially be on the team next year because he's going to be an impending free agent. So it'll really be interesting to obviously see what happens for that position for the future. But Reese McGuire, just a very good, reliable guy for the Red Sox to have. And who knows if we continue to see Plawecki struggling throughout down the stretch, maybe we could see Ronaldo Hernandez or Connor Wong come up. But it's nice to have a replacement like McGuire where you're not nervous with him coming up, because especially with Vasquez being traded and the hole that McGuire had to fill, it's nice that at least the Red Sox are able to have confidence that McGuire will be able to drive guys in and get on base when they need it.
Yeah, 100%. And he's fit. I mean, Eric Hosmer, Reese McGuire, Tommy Pham, they've all fit in very, very well to this lineup. Thank God. Eric Hosmer's knee contusion was nothing but missing a game, because I don't think I could have handled any more injuries to this Red Sox team. But the team is getting healthy, and the team looks to be really confident right now, especially after a series win against the Yankees, going into a series against the Pirates. We still have one more segment here on the Locked On Red Sox podcast, our mental health minute. But before we get into that, Jake wants to tell you about BetOnline.
BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way for you to check in on all your betting needs and find your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find our reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be your top resource for all your sports wagering information, like live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. So head over to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts.
So to end the Locked On Red Sox podcast here on this lovely Monday morning, as you all know, I got married last weekend. We got married last Saturday, and it was incredibly fun. It was such a very low-key day leading up to it. I was just not stressed the entire time. And Derek brought up a good point that it was probably from working in sports where, Jake, we're so prepared for anything and everything to happen at the drop of a hat. Anything can go wrong. Anything can go right. So that kind of prepared us just to be like, whatever. And my photographer had told us that something inevitably will go wrong, but no one's going to know except you two. And two things did go wrong. My flowers were wrong, still beautiful, still absolutely gorgeous, but they were wrong, and there were not enough bouquets. My florist was incredible, though. My wedding coordinator was incredible, and it all worked out. And then 2 buttons fell off my dress while we were buttoning it up. But my very crafty bridesmaid grabbed safety pins and just boom, boom, and you would never know. So those are the only major things that went wrong. But the entire day was perfect. It was a little hot on the beach where we got married, but everything was inside. But my favorite part was just seeing everyone from our lives, like Derek's group of friends from his childhood, my group of friends from childhood, our families from all over the country under one roof celebrating us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's very cool. I'm not somebody who likes to be the center of attention or anything like that. But I was like, I think one day is okay to like this kind of attention, because it was very intimate. There was only about 80 people there, and it was just so much fun to celebrate, to dance. I don't think I left the dance floor for more than 5 minutes the entire night. Our DJ was absolutely incredible, just kept everyone on the dance floor. And it was just really, really cool day. And we want to do it again. Like, let's get married like every weekend, because it was just so much fun. Our coordinators were incredible. The director of events, everyone at our venue was just absolutely amazing. And like I said, I wish we could do it again, just because it's so cliche, but it was the best day of my life.
I saw you guys had some great dance moves. And also, did you guys shake hands like after after like I don't know after the ceremony ended?
Yeah, so we've had this thing that we shake hands, like a very like firm handshake. We don't know how we started this. Like it came to be. We've been doing it for the 4 years we've been together. And I was like before our like first kiss as husband and wife, we need to shake hands. And we
Yeah.
did it. And I didn't know that they would be filming from the top, like from the window up top, right? That overlooks the ceremony site. So to actually see that, I was like, that is so funny. And everyone around us, like they know, like what are these weirdos doing shaking hands? Like I don't
Right.
understand it. I was like, we don't either. It's just our thing. But yes,
Exactly.
it was that. We also had our dog's head, Roxy. We had
I
like a
saw that.
fat head of her on a stick. Big hit. Recommend if you can't bring your dog to your wedding to do that. But yeah, it was just very personalized to us. Like we dropped the puck before the ceremony started. We had
That's
rally
cool.
towels. So it was just very personalized to us. Like I said, best day of my life.
That's awesome. So happy you guys were able to really enjoy it, and that the weather worked out for you. And I think that's the best part about weddings is getting everybody together from like throughout both of your guys' lives, and also it's cool to see how they interact too, because like
Yeah.
some people you're like I didn't realize that like they might get along or they might get along, and it's cool to have everybody around you that you care about, and that's what I noticed when my mom had her wedding a year or so ago. It was my first ever wedding, and I'm like, this is amazing. Like I can't wait until mine, or and for me, and the next few years, probably
Hmm.
some of my friends will get married too. So weddings are definitely fun. Wish it was a an every weekend thing, but
Same.
uh, definitely would get tiring if it was a little bit.
Tiring and broke. Weddings do get very expensive for everyone, for guests, for bridesmaids, for brides and grooms, but we literally could not have asked for a better day. We definitely have the wedding blues seeping in now, but we're so excited for our pictures to come back, and we have this awesome memory to look back on for hundreds of years from
Yep,
here. And even my grandmother was dancing. My grandmother's 94 years old. She was out on the
that's
dance floor.
awesome.
So it was just so good to see. But it is really good to be back here on Locked On Red Sox. And I'm glad to be able to bring you Locked On Red Sox Monday through Friday. We are back. The Red Sox hopefully are back. And thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen. Rate, review, and subscribe right here on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast is where you can find us. Find us on Twitter at LO_Red Sox, Jake at Jake Iggy, me, Lauren, 3 laws, Lauren with 4 R's. My last name will change. My Twitter handle will never change. It's been part of my life since I was like 15. And now that you've made Locked On Red Sox your first listen, head on over to Locked On MLB to make it listen number 2. MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan, just call him Sully, brings you humor, brings you passion, and his unique perspective on every team and the biggest stories around the league. Follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. We'll be back tomorrow. We have a special crossover episode with Locked On Pirates as we preview the upcoming series in what hopefully will be another series win for the Red Sox. We'll see you tomorrow. And as always, let's go Red Sox.